In the previous tutorial, we talked about the concept of function and we learned when the function is one-to-one and when it is many-to-one. We will solve exercise 4 on page 16 and that says, state whether or not the following graphs represent functions. Give reasons for your answers and describe the type of each function. We have the following graphs. We need to determine which one is a function or which one is not and state the reason. Have a look at part A. We can notice that every input has an output. For example, this point has an output here, or this point has an output too. Also, the graph passes through the origin. Also, if we take a point here, it has an output. So we can notice that every input has an output. So this graph is one-to-one function. Now part B, we have a straight line at point 0. It has an output. And at this point, it has an output. Also, if we take this point or this point, all these points have inputs and outputs. So this graph is also one-to-one function. Now part C, if you could notice in this graph at x0, we have two outputs, here and here. So in this case, since we have said that the function, every element in the input has exactly one element in the output. And since here the one input has two outputs, so this is not a function. So we say this is not a function since some x values get mapped to two y values. In part D, we could notice the x here has two values at y, this and this. So it is not a function, and the reason is the same as part C, which is the x has two y values. Now part E, since it's telling us that this point has no y, that is, it does not have an output, so it is not a function. But why? Because every input on the graph must have an output. So this is not a function since one x value doesn't get mapped anywhere. This means that this x does not have a y value. And finally part F. If you could notice, the y is 0 here, has two x values, this is 1 and this is 2. And we have said that the y, which is the output, can have two inputs. And in this case, this function is called many-to-one function. So by this, we learned when do we have a function and when we do not have. So the function means that every input must have exactly one output, and we learned that what is meant by one-to-one function and that every input has one output and many-to-one function, and which means that every one output can have more than one input.